A lot of people are saying Donald Trump's recent message to ban Muslims from coming in the country plays into ISIS's strategy. They want people to believe there's a war between the West and Islam. Is that true based on your research? Is that what you're seeing?
Well, I think the objective of terrorism is obviously to divide society. You know, it's to drive people one way or the other. So you're either with us, the Islamic State, or you're against us. There's no middle ground. And the Islamic State themselves talk about eliminating the grey zone where people are in between those two camps. So they will do things to try and cause that division. But if other people are also doing things to cause that division, fine, you know, they're very happy with that. And although, you know, I should imagine very, very few people in the United States would support things that Donald Trump's been saying recently about Muslims, nonetheless, you know, it does help to sort of drive a wedge between communities, have people identifying themselves, as Ali was saying, as Muslim or non-Muslim rather than American or non-American, which is pretty dangerous.
And foreign fighters is another major challenge. A lot of people leave to go, hundreds, thousands in Europe are leaving to go to Iraq and Syria, and some of them are coming back. You guys estimate 20–30%.
The average in Western countries, yeah.
So, based on your research, is there a certain way to deal with these foreign fighters coming back?
Well, Richard is heading a project in the group focusing exactly on this. But yeah, we definitely need to know why these individuals are coming back. Are they coming back because they are disappointed with what they've seen in Syria? It's too much violence for them. It's not my cup of tea kind of situation. Are they coming back because they thought, you know, this is serious, I might die? Or are they coming back because they want to set up, you know, a cell, a sleeper cell, and conduct an operation like we've seen in Paris? I think the threat matrix is extremely complicated. In the past, we had problems with returnees. We had problems with the returnees from Afghanistan and the returnees from Albania and returnees from Chechnya. And I think we have to be very focused on this threat and try to bridge the gap. Richard?
Yeah, I would agree, of course. And you know, we've been talking about why people go, but it's equally important to think about why people come back. And, you know, those motives will be as varied as they are for people going. But to understand that is really important when you've got limited resources and you're trying to devote them to the areas where there's most threat. You know, 40 for the United States is not so bad. But when you've got hundreds coming back, as you have in Western European countries, the security forces can't cope with that. There's just too much. They have to prioritize. So, you know, things may happen. And I think the other thing to say about that is that you can't really predict how these people are going to behave in the future. So at one point you might say, oh yeah, they're fine. But then 5 years down the line, what are they going to be like? And if you remember the Charlie Hebdo attacks, those guys had come back from Yemen in that case about, you know, 5 years beforehand. So it's very difficult to predict. It's a problem for many years to come, unfortunately.
We just heard Defense Secretary Ash Carter say ISIS is not contained. Do you guys have a time frame for when you think ISIS would be contained, when ISIS would be defeated? Is it possible?
I think, you know, it's definitely possible to defeat it. But for every action, there's a reaction. So we cannot come with a timeline without understanding what the strategy and what the specific tactics of that strategy is to defeat ISIS. You know, the bottom line, ISIS is a symptom of a disease. ISIS is not a disease. And in order to target that cancer, in order to target the symptoms of the cancer, which is ISIS, we need to deprive it from the reason that exists in the first place, and that is the vacuum that exists. That's a vacuum that exists in Syria, and that's a vacuum that exists in Iraq. We see them losing a lot of territory, but that does not make the situation any easier. I mean, as long as they have a Raqqa, as long as they have Mosul, as long as they have this so-called caliphate, I think they're going to continue to pose a significant threat.
All right, Ali Soufan and Richard Barrett of the Soufan Group, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.